Hi, welcome to our mini lecture on helping clients with their feelings. This is meant to be watched prior to our fifth class together. So the purpose of this mini lecture is to discuss how we approach our clients' affect and then how we work with affect with our clients. So we always want to be exploring what the client is experiencing. And this may be different from what they're telling us that they're experiencing. We never want to ignore entry points. We really want to use that as an opportunity to start exploring with our clients. We want to do this sensitively but directly, and this can feel awkward. We're not used to doing this in the real world, but this is part of us modeling and providing that corrective emotional experience. Now, often these entry points will show up as nonverbals, tearing up, sighing, blushing, facial expressions. All these things can really bring us right to the core of the issue. Important to note that we need to be mindful around cultural norms. Nonverbals look different in different cultures. So our goal is to encourage our clients to explore their feelings without us interfering and limiting or labeling. And we want to be mindful in this process of either or questions. That can feel really limiting. And sometimes our clients will be more guarded. They won't want to enter this process of exploration with us. So we may need to be a little more directive. And in this case, we would tentatively inquire something like, it sounds like you were really angry. It sounds like you were sad, things like that. We don't want to ask our clients why they're feeling what they're feeling. And that's because it's hard to answer that. Sometimes we don't know why we're feeling what we're feeling. It can also feel really shaming. So instead of something like, why are you crying right now? We might say, help me understand the tears. Or I find it can be really helpful to say something like, if the tears had a voice, what would they say? Kind of gets us out of our head and gives us another way of answering the same question. So the classic, how did that make you feel? We hear that a lot. That's what everybody assumes therapists are saying throughout the whole session. But that can be a not so helpful phrase, a not so helpful question, actually. Many of our clients come to us because they don't know how they're feeling. And many have childhood experiences that teach them not to acknowledge their feelings. So it's kind of a scary question. So open-ended questions help us get to the source of what the client is feeling. It shows the client that we're actually interested in what they're telling us, and it provides a new relational experience. So working with affect. So it's our job to guide clients towards experiencing what they're talking about, not just to listen to what they're talking about, but to guide them to actually experience it. And here's that content versus process. Sometimes the affect doesn't match the content. This is called incongruence. This might show up as someone telling us a disturbing story, but with no obvious emotion attached to it. So our goal here is to help our clients integrate these parts gently but directly. So we might say something like, I hear you telling me this scary event, but I'm not getting a sense of what it was like for you to witness it. So doing this in this way allows our client to actually tell us what's going on for them, what they're actually experiencing. Then that gives us the opportunity to validate that experience. And there is a corrective emotional experience. So we want to identify the predominant affect. A client comes to us, they're in crisis, they have this issue, but what's at the core? Everything is linked, everything carries the weight of every other experience we've had in the world. So it's important to know that there's going to be some kind of thread that links all of this together. Our textbook uses the phrase, a story playing at two times. And I really like that because we have the client that's presenting right in front of us telling us this story. And then it's likely that they've felt this way in the past. So there's the story in the present, the story in the past. What's the theme? What's the thread? And our goal here is to help clients make sense of their world. That kind of organization that they can feel when they can organize these thoughts, feelings, experiences can lead to compassion with self and others. And then that leads to self-efficacy. So we want to be mindful of secondary emotions. So some of our clients will come to us angry, and that can be really uncomfortable for us as therapists to sit with anger. But it's important to remember that there's something behind the anger. And so we want to acknowledge the anger, be curious about it, and we're looking for one of those points of entry to the primary emotion of pain. Some clients, it'll be the opposite. They will present sad or guilty, and they can't express anger. So in this case, we want to be looking for that point of entry, really staying with it, digging in. We're looking for that little bit of anger. And then we want to encourage and, of course, model healthy boundaries and limit setting. And that will help our clients access this healthy anger. So our goal here is to work together with the client to identify and clarify the specifics around what they're feeling, and then to really stay with that primary emotion, not just what they're presenting, but what's actually going on. So shame. Shame deserves way more than one slide, of course. But for the purpose of this mini lecture, we'll touch on it very briefly. We want to approach shame like we approach everything, sensitively but directly. We want to show compassion for feelings of inadequacy or self-judgment. We want to extend our unconditional positive regard, and we want to process that with the client so that it's clear to them that we're actually coming from a place of unconditional positive regard and that there's no judgment or criticism from us as their therapist. And over time, this will help clients internalize the compassion that we have towards them. They internalize it, they integrate it, they feel it to themselves, they bring it out into the world. So here's that modeling and that corrective emotional experience. Secure attachment. Again, we need way more than one slide to adequately talk about secure attachment, but here's a very brief overview. Secure attachment is that children need two things to be securely attached. One is for caregivers to consistently respond with empathy and emotional responsiveness. And two is for children to have a secure base, a grounding base that they can then launch from to support exploration and independence. And when children feel protected, comforted, supported, seen and heard, feel they're being responded to, that will have them be securely attached. And in moments of misattunement, this is really important for parents and therapists. In moments of misattunement, we can recover. We have an opportunity for learning and for repair. So this is our thread here. This allows for that corrective emotional experience. We always want to be thinking about attachment with our clients because they have their little version of themselves inside. They have their inner child in there, and they've grown up around this attachment style. And so it's important to be thinking about this. And then as therapists, we're modeling this secure attachment. We're providing this safe haven and this secure base. And that right there is the corrective emotional experience. Transference. Another thing that really requires, we could have a whole 8-quarter program just on transference. So transference, we'll talk a lot about this in class, but transference is when a client transfers an unconscious feeling or desire onto the therapist. And without realizing it, the client begins engaging with the therapist in a familiar dynamic. So this can be useful. It helps us identify relational patterns in the client's life. It can tell us things about the client that they are not telling us or can't tell us about themselves. So we always want to consider what's coming up for our clients. And then countertransference is the reverse. It's the therapist's emotional reaction to the client. When we have a strong emotional reaction to a client, we need to really look at why. What is this bringing up for you? How can it be useful? And it can be really useful. And we'll talk about that in class, but it can give us some really important clues into who the client is and what their core issue is. So a lot of what we've discussed very briefly here is very dense. These are complicated concepts that we'll be talking about in class, but please do let me know anything that needs to be clarified. I'd like to leave you with two thoughts here. One is the importance of us as therapists doing the work that we ask our clients to do. That will allow us to present authentically, to be there, to be open for our clients. And the second thought is that the corrective emotional experience is an incredible gift to our clients. We give them this gift together, we work this out together, and then they internalize it and bring it out into their worlds. So it's really this incredible legacy that can happen in the therapeutic relationship. I look forward to seeing you in class. Thanks for watching.